Cool. Thanks for coming, everyone. Really appreciate y'all being here. This is our, I think, 14th Community Observations Meetup. If you're not in our Luma group, please be sure to join, and let's kick it off. So we usually do fun pictures, but I just got a new headshot at the GameSite Pulse conference and I'm cheesing in it, so I wanted to share it. But quick intros for us. I'm Tiffany Oda. I'm the Director of Community Operations at Venafi, amongst a bunch of other things, including strategic community consultant for Talkbase. Couple house loves recently. These are just funny things. I love my new house slippers. I got some of those really like plushy ones, and I like standing in. I have hardwood, so it's just like really cushy. And then IRL community. I went to a community club meetup here in San Francisco and met a couple people in real life. And then also at the GameSite Pulse conference, got to meet a bunch of people in real life there. And then CMX Summit is coming up, so I just it's so nice to meet people in person, especially after talking virtually for the last 2.5, 3 years. Really love people coming together, and it's just so nice getting to, this sounds weird, but touch people and hug them and fist bump them. Current ops project, I was actually sent on, this isn't necessarily operational, but I was sent to represent the community team at the marketing offsite for Venafi. Really, really cool. And it provided a lot of insight into, they have good intentions, but as they're creating their roadmaps, they're not thinking about community front and center. They're thinking about, blogs and videos and things like that. And kind of just being able to consistently plug community in, I think opened a lot of eyes into how the two teams can work together even better going forward. And then I am hosting a workshop for CMX Summit on the 13th. It's all about community operations. So I'm trying to last minute scramble on finishing all of the things for that.
I love it. You are always a busy bee and my hero, and I'm very excited to see you at CMX Summit. Speaking of IRL community.
So excited.
I am Cassie Mays. I live in Austin, Texas. I work at Atlassian, focus on community operations. Right now I'm not in it, but our new Austin office, it's amazing. I love free coffee and free lunch and not having to think about those things on a daily basis when I'm working at home. Obviously love hanging out with my family. If you were on at the beginning of the call, you might have heard my kids were recently sick. They just started school. Everyone is back in business. This will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, their first full week back at school since school started. And then I have weather here, which is a random love, but I didn't want to put rain because it just sounded sad. But we have been having a lot of rain here in Austin, which is nice because it has just been so long since we've seen anything. And then it feels a little bit cooler outside and it gives those rainy day vibes, which are nice. But current ops project, I am finalizing 3 different contracts for platforms that will support our community events program. So we've got a platform that'll support presentations, assets, a swag vendor that's going to make stuff a lot easier, and then a tool that helps with member engagement. So if community members want to meet together in between either meetups or they're in online groups and want to just know each other IRL and hop on a call because they don't get that on our online community, we're going to be supporting that member engagement as well. So yes, next slide. We love to see everyone's faces, but obviously cameras are optional. We want to be sure that we are respectful and kind to everyone, especially in the chat or any questions for our presenters. We never have that problem, but just like to call it out. We do love discussion, speaking of the chat, so hop in there not only if you have questions, but I always love to say I love to +1, so feel free to +1 somebody else as well, their ideas. And our session is being recorded, so if for any reason you need to bounce or something else comes up, you can catch us later. Every meeting is posted in our Luma community that Tiff mentioned at the beginning.
Kristen, your answer. That's so funny. All right, so we are in our penultimate Community Ops Top Dog series. It's been a really fun 11-month series. If you don't know Ops Top Dogs, it is a framework made by Holly Firestone, who is my personal hero and goes over kind of like the main pillars and areas of community operations. So we've gone through all of these. If you are curious on sessions, they're all in our Luma library. But this month we're talking about guidance. And so for guidance, it's, as community operations people, a lot of our jobs are doing enablement and training and documentation and teaching our community team members how to think about automation and the tech stack and how everything works and setting everything up. And so we have two amazing speakers today. Next slide. So we have Kristen and Max. I'm going to let y'all introduce yourselves when you come to speak. But first up, we've got Kristen.
Yay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to see any of you that will be at CMX Summit. I'm Kristen. I started at Higher Logic about 6 years ago and went through all the acquisitions and implementations of communities, and more recently was at Telium, which is a customer data platform. So a definite nerd side of community. And now I'm at Talkbase and reveling in the community ops side of the house. And so happy that's a thing, as it wasn't necessarily 6 years ago. So today, I'm going to show you how to implement an NPS program in your community. And hopefully it'll be helpful, and I can share some lessons of some interesting things I learned while doing it myself. Do you have the deck, Tiffany, or do you want me to pull it up?
Oh, I can share it with you. I don't know. You want me to drive it? That's helpful. I got you.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So if you haven't heard, and I could talk about this all day, but we won't fully geek out on what NPS score is and the math and everything behind it. But in a general way, it's a way to collect customer sentiment. So obviously that falls in the realm of community, and a lot of times in a lot of organizations in customer marketing. And you can see that little graphic over there, and you've maybe seen that little scale of happiness, in an email or in a pop-up in a tool that you use. And so it's basically a scale of 1 to 10 and to gauge where your customer is at. So today I'll talk about the strategy and how I did what I did, who was involved, and hurdles and outcomes. Thank you. The strategy. Okay, so the biggest thing, if you're going to drive this project, is to be the person that already has the idea of the product or channel that you want to use to collect this score. So ideally, that would be a community platform, and some of them have that built in where you can surface a survey or easily collect an NPS score that way. At Telium, we used a tool called Pendo. Now at Talkbase, we use Intercom, little chat bots. Those are a good way to collect NPS scores. You can put them in the footer of any email for any event you do, and a custom-made survey, even if you use an account like SurveyMonkey or something. I know we are all pretty scrappy as community managers, so you can make almost any tool work, but stand strong in your choice, because you will have to identify all the stakeholders in your org. And for me, for this project, it was customer marketing, the product org, and our CS org. And so my goal was really to make it as hard as possible for anyone to say no to the process. And that's kind of how I function. If you go in and you have the platform chosen, you have the process written out, it makes it really hard for people in other parts of the org to say no, because you're like, oh, that's okay, I already thought of that. So for instance, I prepared an infographic. Never underestimate the power of Canva, especially when talking to executives. If you can make an infographic or make a visual that can really highlight what you're doing, it's super helpful. Executives love things in slides. It's an easy thing to share, and it's pretty, so people will actually look at it. And then on the more community manager side of the house, I also tend to always include text templates, so it's really simple for people to respond. I'm a community manager. I could talk to people all day. Sometimes the product people, the CS people, they don't know how to start sensitive conversations. And so it's really helpful for them to have a starting place. And then this is really important, everyone. You'll want to agree on a place that you're going to store all of this valuable NPS information, because along with gathering that score, people can usually submit a comment. And so you'll want to make sure you don't lose any of that. But then we have this issue of, okay, well, every different team uses a different tool. For instance, at Telium, we had people in Salesforce, Pendo, the community, Google Drive, Slap5, which is an advocacy platform, and probably other ones we didn't even know about. So we had to get to a point where we could agree where this master kind of information would live. And then create a Slack channel. I am a person who's like hit people in multiple channels. So they're always getting your message. So have a Slack channel and regular meetings for stakeholders. All right, this is how I did it and who was involved. So to make your case and from an operational point of view, before you go in and say, I want to do this, this is where I really try to make my case. So this is where you'd want to take in individual bandwidth, the structure of the teams, whether or not you're a one-person team, how much time you can commit, logistics. And so I took a good look at what everybody does. And then what I really did was kind of talk to the product owner of each channel where I could collect an NPS score. So I went to the product growth manager for Pendo and I was like, hey, I heard we can use this tool for NPS scores. What are the implications? I went to our Salesforce admin. I went to our customer marketing team and asked about, historically, what had we done and, what were any roadblocks before or things to consider when rolling out this program again. So again, I had like a very clear purpose with each part of the org. And then I selected Pendo for the collecting of responses for NPS. And that was for us just because it was a tool that was in our app. So it was really easy for product users while they're actually using our tool to submit feedback. Again, that could be different for every org. And then the Pendo product manager was the one who managed that weekly addition to that database of all the new information. And for, the actual score and any comments that our customers were making. And this is something I've found is vital. No one wants to feel like they didn't know what was about to happen. So early and often communication, especially with stakeholders like the CS leads and the product managers, just to really set the table for what's going to happen, what they can expect, and what like the expectations are on turnaround time. Like when are we reaching out to these people after they give us a score? And so I had the very interesting task of convincing CS to take all the detractors. So detractors are people that give your product or service a 6 or below. Customer marketing was very happy to take 7s and above. Those were people we could easily use for speaking opportunities, case studies, speakers at conferences, etc. If they were giving us really high marks and really pointed feedback that was really good, then we would offer, some of those ways to get more involved. And then the point of the detractors is everybody's going to say they care about reducing churn and they want people to keep using their product, but it'll scare people when you start saying that there might be people who give you low scores. That could send people into a frenzy, so you have to be prepared for that. And so while I scope things, I always make sure I have an executive ally. And for me, it was the CMO and also the senior VP of the product department. Both of them were adamant that customers should be responded to in, a normal span of time, and their issues addressed or any praise that they give, given to the team that deserves it. So make sure you can identify who your ally will be in case there are any hurdles. Wow, this is a lot of text. So guess what? There's going to be some hurdles, you guys. And that's just the nature of cross-functional work, which is where community managers tend to lie a lot of times. Here are some obstacles that you can prepare to overcome. And bandwidth is a huge one, especially if you're in a small startup or just a small team, growing team, things moving fast. There are a lot of people that will say, oh, we can focus on this later. You know, there's always a project that can take precedent, or a program that, you know, someone else could argue needs to be implemented. And so how I overcame this was ensuring that everyone on the team had clear instructions and guidelines. Again, if you just tell people, I'm going to roll out NPS scoring, they will go, what? So if you're telling them, hey, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take the 7 through 10s. You guys, I just need you to reach out to the 1 through 6s because you know the account, and making it really simple. Here's some templates we use. It's a much different response than I'm going to roll out NPS. I've seen it throw people into a frenzy. And a big part of that is fear of results. What if we get too many bad scores? What if they were recently served a survey somewhere else in our tool or in our messaging somewhere? What will the experience be like? How can we make sure, you know, it's a unified experience? There's a lot of questions. And my suggestion is always start with a smaller target audience and then build from there and incorporate a bigger audience as you kind of scale and iterate to make sure. So maybe you wouldn't serve the survey to every single customer at first. Maybe you would just choose in platform to show it to anyone who has come to one of your events in the last 60 days, and then start collecting that data, making sure your team is able to actually process the infiltration of information, and then go from there and perhaps open up the audience more and test the experience in that way. So another hurdle I've seen that can happen is too many platforms to choose from, analysis paralysis. And instead of just talking about what you want to do, at some point, someone should make a choice. And the way to make a good choice is to get input from individual product owners, like I mentioned earlier. So to talk to whoever owns your Salesforce instance, to talk to who owns Pendo, the community, if it's not you, etc., and make sure you're not missing out on a tool that might be the best one to use. And what if someone isn't doing their part? Well, what if, for instance, CS doesn't want to reach out to detractors? So the way that we would overcome this, so at first I kind of just let the process ride, knowing that we might have an issue here. Then I took things up a notch and I would mention people in our database to make sure that they were, you know, seeing. So that's part of what you can do is managing the process, is figure out what channel and how you're going to notify people when there's feedback that they need to respond to, and then offer to write communications for them. So again, a lot of times you'll find that people aren't necessarily not wanting to reach out to the customer, but they don't know what to say or how to start it, especially if it's a customer that's not happy. So I, you know, use my copywriting skills to get them started. And then this is the last one, or you can call in the executive backer. And that doesn't hurt. You know, we've had one of ours go into the Slack channel and, you know, maybe there were some CS people saying, oh, I don't feel comfortable. This is a newer account. I don't know what to say. Like, I'm new to the account. And then that SVP would be in the Slack channel and be like, hey, FYI, it's imperative that every customer is responded to, you know, and it was not to say that I wasn't powerful, but it was a little more powerful than the community manager being like, hey, will you reach out? So that's why an executive ally is always important in any program that you roll out. Outcomes, some of the results from the community team and us responding to 7 to 10 ratings. So gathering addresses for gifts to delight customers. So if someone gave us a 10 rating, when I thank them for our rating, I would also say, hey, do you mind if I have your address? I want to send you a little thank you. And I would send them a thank you card and a laptop sticker. And then I had those addresses in order to use for holiday gifts or any other, reasons I might want to send a gift to these customers. And it created a lot better working relationships with product managers in the CS team. This is invaluable because so much of what a community manager does can't be done alone. And especially if you're working on a tech product, you need product managers to be bought in to the process, be willing to talk to customers regularly, whether the feedback is good or bad. And the same with the CS team. You want to enable them to do their best using your resources from the community and to always be building connections there as well. And part of selling this process is letting the CS team know this is a great way to triage any potential churn risks. So if one of your company goals is reducing churn, this is a really great way to start kind of stopping the bleeding and trying to address issues before someone just doesn't renew. And that's always obviously a big obstacle and something that executives really like, if you can show numbers about reducing churn. And you can track KPIs like cancellations or tickets deflected, for if people are responding and getting the information they need. You can dive into numbers, how many people respond, and reassess the text and subject obviously as needed, just like a regular email campaign, social shares for the swag you've sent, and how many contributions come from contacts made this way. So this would be like keeping track of, at this next conference, we have 5 speakers and 3 out of 5 were sourced from responses from the NPS program, for instance. Conclusion, get started. Just get started. Knowledge is power. And that's a lot of the selling that you'll have to do. It's better to have the knowledge, even if some of it isn't all 9s and 10s. So it empowers your team to connect better with the customers. I have a link in the deck for a template I used for Tealium. You can see that little screenshot on the left is the graphic I use to catch people's attention in Tealium colors. And it just outlines what we do in customer marketing for each response, a 7, an 8, a 9, or a 10. And then I link to the email copy and just kind of giving you an idea of the kind of response a 7, 8, 9, or 10 would get. So yeah, I hope that you find them helpful.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kristen. Do we have any, well, we do have one question I see from Tiff in the chat. How did you track the contributions that came from the initiative?
This is where it can get sticky depending on how many platforms your company uses. Again, it's one of those things where you kind of have to pick. What we decided was to keep all advocates in SLAP 5, which is an advocacy platform. That way it was a really easy way for the CS team to filter down and know who they could go to for references or who had recently given good feedback. But that is something that could be done, hopefully not manually, in any number of ways, depending on what tool you decide to use, and then what your KPIs are. Like if it's speaking or guest bloggers, or we converted this person into an ambassador, we converted this person into a multi-product user. There's a lot of different ways you can go depending on your company's goals.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kristen? If not, right now, and one pops up while Max is talking, feel free to throw it in the chat. Max? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kristen.
Sorry if you hear a dog crying in the background. My dog is dreaming right now, so he's like whimpering. But he goes in a deep REM cycle, sleeps, and just like goes at it. So, but hey everyone, I am Max. I'm I'm the community lead over at Super High. We're an online education startup helping students learn code, design, and project management. I started with them back in December of last year, but I've been a community member and I've taken courses with them since 2018. So I was super excited to join the team. And I'm going to be chatting about training my team on the importance of getting community analytics set up, what my tech stack looks like as a community lead, and not necessarily someone who specializes in operations, but still kind of does a bit of everything. And then also setting up a resource hub for our community. So I will share my screen. I believe it is this one. Can everyone see the slides here?
Yep, looks good.
Cool. So this year, or actually this just happened like recently, we just signed the contract yesterday.
Sorry, Max,
but
do you want to go into the slideshow mode?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, cool.
We just got onboarded to Common Room fully as our community analytics platform. One of the reasons that I was really pushing for this is that when I joined the team, we didn't have a platform. The team was just basically putting together numbers via information from Slack, and then has Google Sheets or Notion databases, but nothing was really automated where we can go and check one sole platform. So one of my goals from joining the team was to get our team onboarded on a platform. I came across Common Room, really loved the system and how it looked and the benefits that it could work with our team. So, which I'll show everyone in a second. How do I exit this full screen?
Escape.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I just want to share, can everyone see the Common Room homeboard or dashboard?
Yep.
Cool. So I just want to give a walkthrough of onboarding a team in the Common Room and kind of why I chose this for our community analytics platform. One of the main reasons being is their workflows tab. So myself and my coworker who's on my community team were in charge of manually onboarding new members. Our community is about 10,000 people, and we get roughly around 100 to 200 a month of new users. And so we are manually onboarding new members through Slack, welcoming them into the community. And it was just taking a ton of our time, and we had to and we were also missing some people because people would join on the weekends or on Fridays, and we would just not catch it till the following week or maybe later. So I really wanted to work with a tool that we could automate this. Came across Common Room and set up really cool automations so far. One being a welcome message for new members. So as soon as someone joins the Slack community, within 30 minutes, they'll get a welcome message from my own account, welcoming to the community, showing them how to get around, to introducing themselves, and any questions, how to get in touch with our team. I also have a check-in message. So after 30 days of being in the community, they will get a message from myself as well, where members I'll just check in to see how they're doing, if there's any complaints or comments or suggestions. Most of the time, we'll get a lot of responses back from members who are just like, hey, I've been super busy with X, Y, and Z, and I haven't had time to take so-and-so courses yet, but I'm planning to. But it's still good feedback for us to see. As we track engagement and those numbers, if engagement's a little lower, these check-in messages help show that, hey, these members are still interested and want to be active. They just might have not have the time commitment to do so. And then I also do a re-engagement message. So after a member hasn't been engaged within 60 days of our community, they'll get a message from myself as well, checking in to see how they're doing, if there's anything that we can do to support. And this has just been super helpful because before this was a manual process of myself doing this. So working with my teammate and pitching this to my team, one of the benefits that I've really found working at Super High is that they trust what our community team says that we need, the tools that we need. So I haven't had to have like a big uphill battle of getting this into our tool belt. I just kind of show that, hey, this is the resource that we need. This is the time that it's going to save for us to do this. And these are the kind of cool tools that we can use for our organization. Another big thing that our team really focuses on is user research. We do user research for about every little thing that we launch at Super High. If that's a new course, if that's a new tutorial, blog post, we survey and we ask our members what they want all the time. And so being able to get a nice full glance of our members, of how engaged they are, did they attend an event? When's the last time they posted in the past 3 months? Without having to just scroll up and down Slack all the time and then potentially losing that information as well, was a big problem area for us. And so training my team to go into, now we have like a members dashboard where we can go into a specific person, click in, for example, I can show you to Daniel White. I can see all his activity that he has done by source of activity. So if it's Slack or if it's another connected channel that we've added to this, different segments or tags that I've created for him, all at one glance, where we can get a better idea of like, okay, is this a user that we might want to interview or ask to interview for a future product release, without having to necessarily always keep track of like a Google spreadsheet or a Notion database where we can all see at one glance on this platform. Another big thing is our reporting system. Before I joined, there was no reporting for community metrics besides getting the weekly Monday email from Slack of saying who's active, who isn't active, who joined, who's not been active in the channel. So all those numbers are just based on there. Today, we get a full glance of our total membership, our engagement rate, our active members. We can see the most active members, which is super helpful for our user research, especially if we want to go, after some users that we can communicate to see if for future product releases, or if we want to ask their opinion for maybe potential event speakers or courses that we're about to release. It's one of our most useful tools that I have found with Common Room, and just something that, we just didn't have access before. And so right now I have our community team's about a size of 4. We will be a size of 5 starting in 2 weeks. We're onboarding someone who's based in Europe, which will be amazing because they will be helping with a different time zone than I am. So all 4 of us are in this platform on a regular basis, and it's just been super helpful in terms of our workflow. We don't have to chase down links of certain databases or spreadsheets that we used to have before. We have fully integrated our Slack, our Twitter, our LinkedIn, YouTube channel. I've also integrated our Luma, so when someone registers for an event, it will get sent to here as well. Same with Help Scout, which is our customer support platform where we handle our customer support tickets, will get sent to here as well. So it's just been a huge game changer. And if any community people here are struggling to find a platform or find a use case that could really help them with their work, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to connect with you more on the benefits of a platform like this. And they also have a free version too, so you can test all this stuff out for free. Like all this, we do have a paid plan that hasn't been upgraded yet, but all this that I've just shown you now has all been free. So you don't have to pay any money for it, which is amazing. So you don't have to really pitch your company to shell out budget. So it's a huge value add. And I'm gonna go back to the slides real quick. I'll do present. The next thing that I want to really chat about was my operations tech stack that I and my community use on a everyday basis. So for our events, Luma and Zoom. It's been really amazing. Luma is like my favorite event platform, especially that it can integrate directly with our Zoom account. I can see exactly who attended, how long they have watched the event for. That will integrate directly with Common Room, and then also just running surveys after as well. Our resource hub, which I'll show you after this, is built in Notion, which we share with our community. Our community reporting is all done through Common Room, and our surveying is both done in Typeform and Common Room. Common Room just released this new feature that you can survey members directly through Common Room. I haven't tested it out yet because right now I think it's only for new members, and I would like to test it if they release it for like people who have dropped off or people who have maybe in a specific tag or segment that we set up. But it's something that I definitely do want to test. And yeah, the best part of all this, as this directly feeds into Common Room or our Notion databases right now for Typeform. But it's just amazing that all this stuff does this. And I don't consider myself an operations master or have a lot of experience in this, but I was able to set up all this stuff on my own with my community team. And so if I can do it, anyone else can. And so I just want to make sure that like, hey, even if you don't feel super comfortable in setting up some of the tech stuff behind the scenes, it's totally doable with these tools that we have access to. And the last thing I wanted to show you was this really cool, unique, well, not unique, but this cool like tool that we built for our community called the Super High Community Hub. So this lives on Notion. It goes, we share it to our community as well. But one thing that, because our community lives on Slack, a lot of content just gets lost in the mix, and people have a hard time finding stuff, even with stuff being, if they can search for it, it's just really hard to like comb through. So I wanted to really create this one source of one-stop shop that our community members can go to, where they can access upcoming community events, past community events. So if they missed one, they can go and check out the recording. We have a featured section which shows our salary transparency survey. And then we have different links to various resources. So like where our student work is, our resources library. So if a member wanted to click into here and go to find specific resources for illustrations or icons or UX UI design, accessibility, and so on, they can access all that there. And then every week we do a weekly roundup in our community. So I'll post on Thursdays that, hey, this is what's been happening in our community. If anyone hasn't missed stuff, so they can go check here as well if they don't just want to come through Slack, and they'll see every week. They can click into it and then go in here and like, oh, this is all the stuff that's been happening this past week, and they can click the specific Slack message that this was posted on. And we just found this super valuable for our community members because, yeah, it just, a lot of stuff isn't getting lost in the shuffle as it used to be. And we just have one link where members can go to. Eventually, we're going to kind of build this into our dashboard of our website where members can access directly. So they won't have to go to a Notion link. They can just access it in their dashboard. But for right now, I think for the time being, this has been a super valuable resource. And I definitely recommend some sort of building a community hub or a one-stop shop for your members to just reference, especially as questions come up. A lot of, hey, this is posted on this one day, or I remember this resource being shared, or this link being shared. I think it's really cool to point people back to this specific place where they can find it. And I think that's it. I think that's what I had. I know there's been a lot of stuff in chat, but let me see.
We did have a question that one just came from Tiff. What's the structure of your community team? Also, everyone does think you're a community ops person and you're just fighting it. So that
You're stuck with us.
What's the structure of your community team?
So it's interesting. Technically, I have the only title of community person on our team. We have someone who's an educator, so they help with combining resources for courses and helping with our community on like tier 2 support of specific course related questions. And so they're on my team as well. Like we work really close together. We have 2 other people that are either teachers who have taught other courses in the past for Super High, and now they're kind of merging into the community team based on future projects that they're working on. And then we are hiring someone that's basically doing my role, but I'm based in San Diego, California, and they're based in London. So they'll be handling the European time zone, which will be amazing because every day I wake up and I'm just like, where do I start? There's just a million things that I have to check out on Slack and Notion and email, and I'm just like overwhelmed every single morning. So this will be really nice that we'll have someone that kind of is helping with that. But yeah, so officially a team of 1, unofficially a team of 4 people, soon to be 5.
Awesome. And I have a question about Common Room because I also am a Common Room fan, but do you have any plans to connect any other sources for tracking what you already do, or adding sources to see where people are engaging that you aren't already tracking?
Yeah. Well, it isn't, we don't have like, one of our biggest social channels is Instagram, and there isn't necessarily a way to connect that yet. I think just due to like the API of Instagram doesn't release that, which is why a lot of community platforms, at least from my knowledge, don't have that direct integration. That would be a good future one if we were able to do that, just because we have a lot of customer support happens through Instagram. So they'll like either like DM our channel and ask for certain things, or just a lot of engagement happens there. In terms of community stuff, not yet, but we are kind of working on it. So we're working on an idea of what it would look like if we built our own community platform. It wouldn't be something that would be like released to the public. It would just be something for us to kind of own and operate. So potentially if we go down that road and like how we would integrate that, but this is very early like brainstorming stages at this point.
Would that be a Slack replacement?
Yeah, it would be, just because Slack is really hard to. We have a paid Slack account, so I'm very fortunate that all the information is there. I can search previous threads and things like that, but it's just not scalable. Like every time we add more people, it's more expensive, and stuff just gets lost in the mix. And so we just want to find a replacement for that. But we know that, I guess we know that Slack is never going to fully go away, because it's just the easiest, in my opinion, platform to use. People are already on it for work or other stuff. It's a low lift for someone to just go into a channel and see like what's happening. But at the same time too, like some people are just fully tuned out of it. And we're in a unique position where our members are on like their own student dashboard on our website for courses. So to get them to go onto a browser to check community stuff, I don't think would be as hard as a lift as it is for some communities, because they're already doing it for the courses. So it's just an idea that we may have.
Interesting. Hey, Donnie, I see you came on to camera. Did you have a question or anything?
No, it's been a good conversation, and thanks for yet another reminder, Tiffany. I've been so busy to find time to join these, but I'm going to try to make it more frequently.
I know, and congratulations on your new role too.
Thank you. Yeah,
I don't know if it's new anymore. Time is weird.
Where the time went.
Right.
But yeah, good stuff, Max. I'd be interested to see kind of follow your journey, where you decide to go as far as platforms go with the work you built out. Yeah, I just met Mitch from Common Room. I think it was actually yesterday. So I'm going to follow up with them when I get to CMX.
I love that. I think for us, it unlocked a lot of information where we weren't tracking, like Reddit or Stack Overflow, where people are just chatting about us that we weren't even aware of. So I love to hear your use case, Max, where it's kind of different than ours, where it's like we're trying to find these different people, where you're trying to track the people that you already have in your community, which I think is amazing. The tool just is so vast and it does so much. So I'm interested to hear from you, Donnie, what you think, or if you guys end up going with them.
You're on mute, sorry.
I'm on mute. Yeah, my situation is a little bit more complex. So for those who don't know me, I've been in this space a while, and we was on the ground floor of the HP social care team back in the day. We built large B2C communities. We ran those on Lithium Chorus. I've had 2 runs of B2B communities with Domo and with Kaltura. Domo was on Lithium, and Chorus, Kaltura we ran on Vanilla. Coming into SAP, I mean, they've been doing community for over 20 years. And it's like this, it's like the moonscape. I mean, they've had all kinds of starts and stops. There's all kinds of technology in play. There's all kinds of silos and fiefdoms. And so, they're investing a ton of money in the space right now. I mean, people like Brian and Erica and Richard Middleton are all on payroll as far as consultants before they hired me. So they're already getting some great advice. And the leadership team is pretty serious. So, I mean, even my first 2 weeks, they're like, don't talk to a lot of people. Don't look at all of our station reports. Why don't you kick the tires as an outsider, and then we want you to present to the board. I'm like, really? So it's been interesting, and I was pretty frank in what I found, at least just as an outsider coming in from the first couple weeks. And we actually have a review with the CEO at the end of September. So, but to the point, I mean, we're looking at a lot of stuff right now, but there's just so many big mounds that have to be repositioned or blown up or recreated. We'll see how it goes, but it's the good news is they're taking a 5-year approach and not a 90-day approach, so which is good.
Awesome. Anyone have any other comments or questions in general about community guidance, or questions for Max or Kristen? All right, we do have some closing items. Cassie, would you mind throwing them up on the slide?
Yes, let me get situated here. Awesome.
All right. Next month, we decided to take a little pause from finishing off the Ops Top Dog series. I think we wanted to just let it last a little bit longer. In next month's session, probably either end of September or maybe beginning of October, we'll see. I'm going to be actually doing an encore presentation of my presentation that I did at the Gainsight Pulse conference. It actually talks about the intersection and having shared goals and shared alignment with community operations and customer success operations. It kind of talks about bringing value across the organization, shared collective metrics, and how to collaborate with that team. So they often work really closely together. As all of you know, I know Kristen was talking about NPS scores, and that's part of this whole picture as well. So stay tuned. We'll send out a save the date at some point when Cassie and I figure out when we want to do it.
Perfect. I'm excited to hear about this. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining. Like I said, if you want to share the recording with anybody, if you couldn't make it a friend, every recording and slide deck will go into our library, so you can catch it there. If you have any questions, hit us up in Slack in the Community Club workspace or CMX workspace. And hopefully we will see you soon.
And thank you so much, Kristen and Max. Great job. I've learned a lot, and I have my gears are turning. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.